So this is
I am
Cody,
Cody from
Foxhole.
Foxhole, and I do not listen to.
Well, I talked over it.
There you go.
I talked over it. I don't have isolated
That's
tracks.
exactly how the show goes.
God,
It is.
you do it again.
And we're live.
Fucking mess.
That is exactly how the show goes.
Especially with him. Like, we're all just so excited.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, don't I normally ask you a question or something to start the show? Oh,
Yeah.
God. Okay, well, let me scroll up to that. God, okay. Oh boy, if I'm not being very critical, I'm just looking at my pile of questions.
Mm.
I got one, but it's a dumb one.
Okay.
You like that?
I mean, yeah, sure. Dumb can be fun.
You ever heard that phrase tighter than a duck's butthole?
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that we can go underwater without water going up our holes.
Oh. Yeah. How does that work?
I don't know, because you don't think about it, right?
Must be something with the equilibrium of pressure.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's like 14 psi pressure in, or not 14 psi. Is that right? Yeah. Do you want to Google how deep you can swim before water gets in your holes?
I don't want to Google.
Oh, okay. I bet it's different per hole, though, don't you think? Like, it's got to be different through the mouth than through the butt. Oh, it's James. It's got to be different through the nose than in the mouth or the butt.
Sure.
Ears?
Let's go with. So if you're wearing
ears hurt when I go. If I get down to about 10 feet, my ears start hurting.
Oh yeah, because of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know about pressure. Do you remember that from Ace Ventura?
Yes.
Lines always on.
How
deep do you think you can go before water starts to seep in your butthole?
Man,
it's got to be pretty deep.
Gotta be pretty deep.
Yeah. Do you think they clench? We should ask. We should find like a pearl diver and ask him.
Those free divers. You know, those people that don't use any equipment. They just
go
down like crazy feet. Yeah,
that's what a pearl diver is. I thought. Yeah, but we should. I wonder if they gotta.
Aren't they always pushing air out though to make maybe that?
Yeah. But they're not farting, right? They're just like squeezing real tight.
Maybe you got to put something in there. You know,
be fun. I feel like if you do that too much, you're going to be more prone to.
Oh, right. That could be negatively impacted.
You don't want to degrade the seal.
The steel.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good question.
You know what? Thank you. It is a good question. I've got a question for you, buddy.
Inquiring minds want to know. Yes. What happened?
You can choose what we open the show with. Do you want to hear Silly Little Bird?
Okay.
It's not opening. Oh, do you want to hear a Silly Little Bird? Or do you want to hear? Remember that guy Hoff Matthews we've been playing, where he does the interviews with people, but it's not the interview that it was.
Right. There's just
Do you want one where he's asking Trump questions about his vice president's sexual proclivities, or do you want to hear a Silly Little Bird? Whichever you don't pick will be in next week's big show.
Okay. I'm very curious to hear the Vance's proclivities by Trump.
I'm going to warn you, it is not going to surprise you. It is going to be exactly on the button.
I'm sure there's couches involved.
Only about couches. Remember that that Kanye song? Let me find out. Kanye couches. He goes couches. Which one should I pick?
Wasn't there a designer song like that too?
You know what? Not worth it. Definitely not worth it. Last time I ever tried that. Okay, let's do as promised. Couches. Oh my God, there is a meme there. There's a meme there. If it weren't 6 years old, that would be a hilarious. All right, I'm gonna press this button, and then we are gonna do a show proper, shall we?
Let's.
Running mate JD Vance, what sort of objects does he like to have sex with?
Couches, beds.
That seems strange to me. Would you ever have sex with a couch?
Oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do that. I have to do that.
Well, maybe I'll give it a shot.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken. To the Friday Headlines Roundup edition of None Taken, where every week my good friend Alan wrangles up the headlines from all over the internet and we talk them at you. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcasts a day and Alan watches 3 hours of cable news, so you don't have to. I saw you looking at the screen. You're still watching cable news. And now, get ready for us to take a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers. But first is our favorite Friday clip.
So, another Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. Do us a favor. Do yourself a fucking favor, okay? Instead of buying 15 and a half bananas, head on over to nonetakenpod.com, and for the low price of 15 and a half Trader Joe's bananas, as long as they're still 19 cents. Thanks, Obama, if the inflation caused it to go up more. For $3, you can join the Patreon and you can watch the video of the hidden track we just did. That was a banger of a hidden track. That was. We do one of those before every show. Mm-hmm. And other things that show up there are Patreon exclusive interviews. Most recently, we did one when the Kursk invasion happened with Cody. You love Cody. Cody's a friend of the show. You're probably already following Cody on Patreon, so why are you not signed up for us? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did I mention it's $3?
$3.
Yeah. You can buy shirts there also at nonetakenpod.com. Nonetakenpod.com is the place you go to for all of these things. You can buy shirts that say Alan's edging service. You can get show logo shirts. There's one that says I love country music, where the pun is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is in the shirt. You can figure it out. And there's a few other things. What else do you want to tell them, Alan?
Yeah, so as you
said,
said,
5-star review, you can do that there.
Do that too. Nonetakenpod.com is your source for everything Nontaken that you'd want. All our RSS feeds are there. The merch store is there, like Dustin said.
What does RSS stand for?
Really simple syndication.
I thought it was going to be really sexy sluts. I was pretty close. I got one of the words.
You got one of them right, and I liked the other two. So, no, it's the link that you put in your podcast app that tells it how to find our show. Anyways, so all that stuff is there. Our socials are there. All that stuff. Also, don't forget, support the people that support us. SlickestDigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. SlickestDigital.com.
Hell yeah. Oh, wait. You say hell yeah. I feel like I'm going to start saying hell yeah.
I feel like that, yeah, those roles have reversed. You're the
hell yeah.
There you go. Say it with your chest out.
Say it with my chest hair.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
What is up, everybody? We made it to another weekend. The weekend's here. Have a can of fucking beer. Let's go. And not a lot of weekends left till we're, done with summer and back to fall. So
I gotta tell you this, but college football started. It's fall.
Yeah, I mean, NFL starts tonight, so
hey, who cares?
I want to watch the game tomorrow, but it's only on Peacock, I think, which fucking sucks. What's
the game?
It's the Eagles and the somebody.
Who cares? Yeah,
who cares? You changed your lighting.
Did? Oh no, I clicked on a screen that's white, so it added lighting. Guys, join the Patreon. You can tell when I change my lighting. It's $3. How have you not signed up?
It's $3. Also, there are 2 other levels of $9 and $18. You get all the same content, although for $18, Dustin will send you a cool Culture War veteran T-shirt.
We try to meet you where you're comfortable donating to the show. We know that's the only reason you do it. You like the show,
yeah,
and we give you stuff for it. But
yeah, you get cool extra stuff.
Come on, I heard you like me. Remember when Joe Biden told that intern that?
Yeah, I heard you liked me.
I think about that like all the time. That phrase. Right.
All right, we got some headlines to get into. First one here is a sad and unfortunately often happening. A 14-year-old shooter killed 4 people, 2 students and 2 teachers, and injured 9 more at Appalachia High School in Barrow County, Georgia. The suspect, that's not right, the sheriff's department. So I think the FBI got a tip that he had made some threats, and so
FBI interviewed him last year.
I think the FBI passed it on to the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's interviewed him. I don't know. I could be both, but because I've seen audio video of the sheriff interviewing him, or heard audio only, not video.
Yeah.
And they interview him and his father at the same time. His father, actually, just breaking right now, literally like a minute before we started recording here, his father has also been arrested on manslaughter charges. His father, 5 months or 6 months after he was pulled in by the authorities to have his son interviewed about these allegations, bought him an assault rifle for Christmas, apparently. Yeah.
So it's on his radar that his son is making these threats about at school, to the extent that it's worrying school officials.
Right. Well, the son denies it. But
The son denies that he killed people.
No, the son denies it back when they interviewed him.
Did you see this little twerp? Did you see the picture of him?
Yes.
Can you imagine getting shot by a fucking nerd?
Yeah. So the son did deny it in the interview, but the father did purchase the gun for him later, and that's the gun that he.
I'm glad to see that because like if this was like vehicular related or alcohol related, they would have said like, well, how did this get into the hands of the child? And yeah, I'm glad to see them
being held accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And parents are a part of the equation. There are a number of things that add up towards that kid shooting those people. The kid's the major part of it, but the parents are a part of the equation on the side of it of the equation prior to the equal sign. So
yeah, just a couple of details here. This kid is 14 years old. Both of the victims that were students were also 14 years old. He also shot 2 teachers, one I think it was in their 50s and one was in their late 30s. There's a lot of question of how he got the gun on campus.
Maybe he had a backpack and a 5-foot ladder.
Well, he was in class and he left.
Is this a sloped roof?
Not that I'm aware of. He was in class and he left class and he returned with the weapon. However, the door to his classroom had closed and was locked. He knocked on the door. Kids saw him standing outside with the gun and didn't let him in. So he went to the classroom next door, whose door was open, and started firing there.
Oh my God.
He had recently transferred to this school only a few weeks ago. I think he'd only been
school just started.
But he hadn't been to school prior.
Right, I understand.
And he'd actually been in school for a few days. So there's that. The campus had just recently, I'm talking like within a week to 10 days ago, instituted this new sort of alert program where all these teachers had like special access keys, and they like a help button. Like if something's going down, they can press a button,
like a panic alarm,
like a panic, exactly. And it basically locks down, and also it sends a message.
Save more people from being shot.
Yeah, unlike Uvalde, there were police on scene within like 5 minutes or less. And because of this new system, they knew like the location where it was happening.
So it wasn't like they weren't sitting around with their thumbs in their ass.
No. So they were able to
hear gunshots, but we don't know where.
Yeah. So they were able to immediately engage with the shooter. And he is in custody. Unlike usually, that's not how these go. But goddamn, dude, 14.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was really callous earlier. I said, imagine being shot by this little nerd. I'm sorry for being callous about it, but 14.
Yeah, man.
Like, I'm really glad to hear that they're going after the parents. Like,
yeah, and they're also trying the kid as an adult. At least that's what they're saying now.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's tragic, man. It sucks. I don't have a lot more to say about that.
Yeah, I don't think it has to do with my opinion on guns. I think it has to do with my desensitization to stories like this. I was surprised this was the opening headline. It should be though. I get it. It should be.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's not news. Like this,
No, I think I went through. I kind of decided went back and forth, and decided which one would be
between
first. I think, I think there were a lot of details in this headline that your like sort of casual consumer of news wouldn't get.
Yeah,
if,
that you
if
wanted to.
I wanted to get out there.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot of those, so I'm glad you did.
All right, shall we move on to?
Yeah, the Justice Department announced that it disrupted a Russian government-directed election interference campaign, targeted the U.S. targeting the U.S. and other nations. Okay, including the seizure of 32 domains. Part B of this headline: the Justice Department indicted 2 Russian state media employees for covertly funding and directing a Tennessee-based online media firm called None Taken Political Nomads
I
Collective.
wish $10 million.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so the Justice Department indicted 2 Russian state media employees for covertly funding and directing a Tennessee-based online media firm to disseminate Russian propaganda to U.S. audiences. Where do you want to go with this? I have a lot of commentary, but I feel like we could just do a show on this. I actually, the first thing I want to do is dismiss, because since I spend a lot more time in right-wing circles, it's annoyed me how much they're like, oh, it's Russia Gate again. It's like, bro, if that helps you dismiss it, like it doesn't help your grasp on reality to find a way to dismiss this and cover for this Canadian woman, Chen, right?
Yeah.
That one of the 2 people that ran the organization,
Mhm.
She was getting paid by Russia
Mhm.
to plug their talking points. Now, she seems to be the barrier between the Russian agents and the hosts that I don't think knew that.
The
But
influencers, yeah.
yeah, the influencers, Tim Pool. I don't remember the other one.
They set up shell companies to pay them and make it look like it wasn't coming from RT.
Right. And
Right.
and so it was coming from RT, but they were like, you're offering us so much money. I need to like they were like curious. There's all these stories about how they're like, that doesn't make any sense why you would send us this much money. And they're like, well, here's who I am. And they just made this like fake identity and fake resume. And they're like, well, that's good enough. That's all I needed. I mean, I wanted the $10 million anyways. I just needed that good excuse. But like it was very evident that they had determined there was something where they were like trying to communicate in this indictment. They went through their Google searches and they corresponded them to emails where they had sent an email to these people saying like, I don't know, what do you want me to talk about, boss? Something like that. Right. And they didn't get a response. So then they Googled, what time is it in Moscow? So they fucking knew. Right. So like now I get it. Tim Pool didn't know that. Like, do not mishear me. Tim Pool, and I'm going to give him a compliment here, was a useful idiot.
Yes.
That's the compliment. So like, that's the best you get. Like he tried to say, well, I'm a victim here. It's like, you know what? I wish I was that kind of a victim. I wish I could get all the millions of dollars that you got out of this. Oh, boo fucking who. But you, I believe you, but it goes back to what I've been saying about you, that you're not a trustworthy person. You are easily persuaded into these things and riled up and happy to spread information that turns out to have been bullshit. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, a couple things. So I included both of these headlines. These showed up as 2 separate headlines. If you read the article.
Yeah, I was curious why you put the first. So did the first one happen before where they had caught that, and then the second one was the specifics?
Yeah, but they're essentially the exact same article if you read them. It's just the headlines point out different parts. So the first one points out the parts about these websites that had been set up, and most of them were like, if you type Washington Post in wrong and you spell it like, without the H or something like that, it'll direct you to this site that looks like the Washington Post and spouts Russian propaganda. They were sites like that. They were also social media accounts that were designed to,
That's how that works.
It does. There's also social media accounts that were designed to push Russian propaganda. And the second one is about this company, the Tenet media company that was set up in Tennessee, which was to direct those funds to influencers. And as you said, $10 million to a Russian propaganda network is not a lot of money. But when you start throwing that in the influencer realm, that has a lot of power. There's a lot. $10 million goes a long way.
Which is the whole point, right? So when people say, oh, it's Russia Gate again, it's like, man, like if you take the part that we know is not at all bullshit, like even, like MAGA hardcore people will say, yes, what happened with Russia Gate at a minimum was they were using bot farms and they were using humans to sow discord and send conflicting things to create discontent within the electorate in the United States and make people, cause divisiveness and make people, not trust their government or start fighting with each other more, right? Like, so that's the part where it's like 100%, we know that. Now, if you want to expand that to whether or not the Trump campaign was getting involved with those people knowingly or unknowingly, that's the rest of Russiagate. But the part that's true is that part. So don't roll your eyes and say Russiagate 2.0 at this being the exact same part of the one that we fucking know happened in a way that has been much more effective and
They
much
even
more
tried-
worth the money. Don't cover for this. Like, you look like a fool covering for this, being like, oh, the Dems are at it again. It's like, how so? Like, why are you covering for a useful idiot? You should be like, hey man, these are my political beliefs, and these grifters, because that's what's happening. These grifters are getting money from Moscow and undermining my actual beliefs. That's what you should say. Not, oh, it's just Russiagate again. You can't trust anything they say. It's like, you look foolish.
Yeah. I mean, do you think we need to define useful idiots, or do you think people know what that is?
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, there's evidence back in like 2016 of even them setting up Facebook groups to like have rallies, and they had groups set up on opposite sides. They set up for both just to try and sow, difference between American people. Discord.
So every morning I listen to anti-war radio, mostly because I am still largely an anti-war person until some country that has no business invading another country decides to do it. And then I'm like, well, I think that country should defend themselves and their interests are aligned with ours, but that's a whole separate thing. So like, yes, I am an anti-war person. I still think that it's worth supporting Ukraine in their war against Russia. I don't think that that's crazy to connect those dots, but I understand that there's people that don't feel that way. Anyways, to my point, I listen to anti-war radio every morning, and about like every third or fourth episode, Dave DeCamp, the host of Anti-War Radio, perjures himself and says that he gets a lot of his news from RT. He's like, he's like, I'm going to update you on the Ukraine war. He's like, so here's all these things that America's doing that's bullshit. And here's all these things that Ukraine's doing because we're supporting them. And all it's going to do is cause escalation and nuclear war. I mean, you don't have to trust me. I got this from RT. It's like, why did you just say that part? Like, so this is him. This is, I think, 45 seconds long. I don't think we'll play the whole thing, but I wanted to clip this out given that this news broke today. So look at this. He did a 32-minute show. At the 27-minute mark, he finally covers, which is probably the biggest story this morning. As of this morning, the biggest story wasn't another baby got killed in Gaza. Like, trust me, I knew that happened. Like, heartbroken by it. But like, thanks for dragging me through that again. But no, 27 minutes in, he does this.
Story here, the U.S. makes new claims of Russian election interference. So this is just, I don't know. I mean, this came out.
So doesn't it already start to sound like someone that gets their news from a place that like,
so
I don't know.
This is just, I don't know. I mean, this came out on Wednesday. The Biden administration said that they took a bunch of actions over new claims of Russian election interference. Look at how he even backloads the facts on this, right? Towards the end of it, he's going to say, he's going to give a bunch of bullshit. And then he's going to be like, they were being funded via RT. When we use that word, what does election interference mean?
Oh, wow. That sounds exactly like the type of propaganda that the Russians that were trying to reach influencers.
Right.
Now, I get that you probably didn't get any of that sweet 10 million, but like the type of shit that they were plugging. So
exactly
the indictment lists campaign topics that they were trying to emphasize in this operation. Campaign topics, inflation, privileges for people of color, crime coming from people of color and immigrants, overspending on foreign policy. Okay. We're being drawn into war. Our guys will die in Ukraine. Right. Okay. So just keep in mind, those are the things that they were hoping to get into the discourse. Discourse or Discord?
Discourse.
Okay.
A Russian election interference. When we use that word, what is election interference?
What is it? What even is election interference? You should really question the reality of the situation that you're even in before you accept this as facts.
Interference mean? this is most of these actions that they took were targeted against RT, which is the Russian.
Yeah, the actions they took were against the. Well, now let's see if he frames RT as what it is, which is state media of Russia, completely controlled by Russia, right?
Yes.
Against RT, which is the Russian media outlet, and going
that is the only place to get your news.
back to 2016, the Russian election interference. They had this whole report on it on RT and everything, and it was just like RT's coverage of the election. It was their media coverage of the election, and of course they say, "Oh, this was ordered by Vladimir."
What even is this tangent, right? Like this is now. I told you what he says for the rest of this, right? You haven't heard that from him.
No.
The first thing he says is distraction. What even is this? Oh, here's what RT is, anyways, and lies.
Putin. And everything, but they never show you any evidence for that. So these are unsubstantiated claims, and it's something.
Now, this indictment is very substantial.
Yes, very substantial. He's just trying to defend a position
claims.
that's undefensible.
Yeah,
that's wow.
I like the Benny show. Yeah, that's what he sounds like.
That the administration might be doing to give themselves, a leg up in the election, because they're claiming that Russia prefers Trump. And
let's just propose the counterfactual from what he just said. Let's say they don't bring this indictment now, and they hold the election without us knowing this. I feel like I trust me to make up my own mind on this. Like I trust the average as a person from the hidden track. As a person, I think that persons should be able to know this and then vote, not find out after the election. Imagine the scandal if they found out about this and then held the story because there was an election coming.
This definitely need to be in the public realm for sure.
Yeah. Is that election interference? Them doing this, and they. And of course, we're talking about the U.S. I mean, who interferes with elections around the world more?
Perfect. Like this is exactly. He's doing the thing.
He's doing the talking points.
Yeah. So he's like, look, I just happen to live in the ecosystem where people spread all these lies and invested opinions, basically, right? RT invested, little seeds were planted, they bloomed into the ecosystem, the forest that I live within, and he starts saying things like fucking
election interference. Them doing this, and they. And of course, we're talking about the U.S. I mean, who interferes with elections around the world more than the country that declares who should be a leader here, who should be a leader there? So this is all just nonsense. That's the way that I view this.
Just saying exactly what the message was that they attempted to get out by paying these influencers. He says the point. Now, I think he thinks for himself. I do. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of these ideas were existent already, and they found people that were sympathetic to that. And it's not hard. And this is one of the flaws with living in a liberal society, right? Is people should make news agencies like this. They should. And then if they do something really dumb, like take money from Russian propagandists funded by the state media, you also get, charged with crimes for that. But I would rather live in the country where you're allowed to make those types of news agencies and have people that believe that already. I would just, as that influencer, hope that my boss wasn't so stupid that they took Russian media money,
right,
and undermined everything I was saying. But they doubled down on it on top of it. Please tell me what just to be clear is, but I'll give you an example of what Tim Pool is doing.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I want to hear you.
I was saying, just to be clear, so for the most part, the influencers or the mouthpieces for a lot of this are nothing's gonna happen to them because they have first
right. Yeah. A lot of people jumped to even fucking friend of the show in New York. Julian was like, oh, this guy's gonna get charged with treason. It's like, no. Tim Pool is not. In fact, they indicted 2 Russians.
Right. So who can be infected by this are people who did not register as a foreign agent and were clearly being foreign agents. And we're actually the next headline is about that, I think. Okay. No, the one after this. Not with Russia, with China.
Oh yeah, the one in New York.
Yeah. But so people who did that can face consequences, and then obviously Russian nationals can. But if Tim Pool, as an American, has a First Amendment right, he can spout whatever Russian propaganda he wants, and there's really not much. That's the First Amendment.
And I want to live in that country.
Yeah, same.
this is the flip side of it. You don't get to be like, you get to talk bullshit. And then when they try to hold you accountable, they're like, well, that's not fair. It's like, no. It's fair because you should trust that that person made the judgment of, well, I'm not going to lie for money. I'm not going to create a company that endorses lies for foreign agents, like, or even half truths, right? Like, because there's versions of what these people are saying that do make some sense. I don't like it's that fraction of what they're saying that's like, right, that's why I can talk to you. However, if you listen to me, I see it this way, right?
Yeah, I do find it interesting that he covered this story. Obviously, he felt like he couldn't not cover it, but he's going to bury it in the show, and then he's going to obfuscate the entire story as he's covering,
which is case in point of this whole fiasco.
Yeah,
Here's an example of Tim Pool.
Their ammo. Yeah.
Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding.
I'm sure this was just his own thought that he had. I say that half sarcastically, and then I hear the words come out. I'm like, actually, kind of
actually think that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, like totally fine.
I mean, somebody could, redo that video, just put like Russian stooge in red letters above his head. That'd be cool.
Right. Well, he left that big black beanie on with all the blank space on there.
Yeah, plenty.
I think Way said he should have to shave in public, and I was like, "Oh, you mean his fake ass beard?" I almost got real. Bunch of slurs almost came out, Alan. But like, yeah, I don't think there's any hair underneath that beanie. That's why he's wearing the beanie, right?
Of course.
Yeah, some guys get really insecure about their hair loss and just refuse to take that hat off.
Other guys just shave it, like.
Look, man, I'm down to fucking shave it. I told Natasha I'm going to turn into like Jason Statham with a beard. What is that? Is that
That's a good look, man. Chicks dig that.
Sketch guy or the Mr. Magnet fucking beard guy? All right, let's get out of here.
I'll never forget when Brian said that. Okay,
he said that about me.
No, he said that about me. Remember?
Yeah, you too. God damn it.
All right. The Justice Department unsealed terrorism and other charges against 6 leaders of Hamas, including current head Yahya.
Why are you laughing?
Because I'm reacting to you, Yahya Sinwar, tied to their involvement in the October 7th, 2023 attack against Israel. So
is that our way of doubling down on Bibi not wanting to take the deal? We're like, fine, we'll go out. Or is this in response to the hostages?
I think it's all of it, but I think the hostages was probably the thing that pushed it over.
I think the hostages was the cover for what they wanted to do because they know that they have to move forward with Bibi's side, but they don't have any good reason to endorse him.
Right.
Because Bibi's the one that keeps changing the deal.
So
this deal's getting worse by the day.
These charges are largely symbolic. Many of the men on this list are already dead, so not much you can do about them. And the rest obviously remain at large. They think Sinwar might be under Gaza in some of the tunnels. So, I mean, potentially if they caught him, they could extradite him to the U.S. and, he could face, charges. That seems pretty unlikely. I think they're probably
hold on. So the U.S. is pressing charges on him? That we filed charges?
Yes.
Is this the thing that is upstream from like deploying special forces after people in like a raid that draws us into another country's direct war?
That's interesting.
Like, is that what justified the bin Laden part, or was because that wasn't even Afghanistan? That was in Jennifer Pakistan. Yeah, that was in. Oh, that's right, because he was in Abbottabad. Talk about a bad place to hide.
Yeah, I don't know that this would necessarily be upstream of that, and I would suspect that if there were intelligence of where Sinwar was, Israel would have it first, and we would trust Mossad to take care of it. I don't know that we
because they got all that dirt on all of our.
But I mean, I see what you're saying there. But yeah, like I said, it's largely symbolic. It's something, but it's. I do think it is in some part a reaction to the hostages, to Hirsch specifically being killed.
I think that's the cover. I think we need to, because of our alliance with them, not because of my preference. Just I guess to be clear, we feel like we need to move on with Bibi's new demands, and we don't have any justification for that. And then the hostage thing happens, and
now we have justification. Yeah. All right, let's hit this next one. This next one is very interesting to me.
Can I play this so that I have it in the soundboard?
Sure.
Okay. I want to play it again.
This deal is getting worse all the time. This deal is getting.
How we're gonna be banned in like Russia or whatever.
I think we
Anytime
already are.
with like heavy copyright, like Disney product,
Oh yeah.
it's like this video cannot be played in Russia. I just hope you're okay with posting it. Because all that was Russian viewers.
Don't
You
ask
mean our
Chat-
bosses?
Don't ask ChatGPT about Darth
Yeah.
Vader.
Yeah. Yeah. That
All
was
right,
fun.
number 4 is you.
On the Wednesday show. The FBI charged Linda Sun, former deputy chief of staff to New York City's Kathy Hochul. See, the Democrats aren't free of none of this shit too. So they charged this lady Linda. I think is it Sun?
I think it's
just
Sun.
okay, Linda Sun, but it's spelled Sun.
Yes.
For allegedly acting as an agent for the Chinese government. I knew it. I knew it, Alan.
So she only worked for Hochul. She worked for Cuomo before her.
Yeah.
And she's been in government for decades at this point. So the allegations are that her and her husband both were working for China. They were allowing Chinese representatives access to
asshole.
to the governor. They were promoting pro-Chinese.
All in
topics.
exchange for salted duck, from what I heard.
Well, not exactly.
Ferraris.
From the governor's office, they were allowing people to get like visas to fly into the U.S. that shouldn't have been, things like that.
And when like something came up that was gonna have like a dialogue with Taiwan, she like
Blocked
threw
it.
the letter in the trash, and
Yeah.
they never found out about it or it delayed
Yeah.
it or yeah.
And in turn, they got paid millions and millions of dollars.
Oh,
which
they stop it. They directly influence foreign relations.
Yes, they did. They did. But they also bought a $3.7 million home, a $1.8 million condo in
And they
in
got lots
Miami.
of salted duck.
And they got lots of salted duck, lots of nice cars. Yeah, just corruption on a massive scale, including getting jobs for like family members in Chinese companies,
Do you think this
etc.
will have anything to do with the I know Tammany Hall is not a thing anymore, but like the New York politics they're kind of a wreck.
Well, it's not just New York, though, dude.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I
it's
talked about.
California. Why do you think I moved, Alan?
No, it's all. I talked about that Crime Town podcast. I didn't realize how old.
Dude, I've been loving it, but the first few episodes aren't talking about Kwame Kilpatrick.
because all right. So actually, so I didn't realize how old this show was. I heard about it in an ad for another podcast, and they're like, "From the makers of Crime Town comes this new podcast," and I was like,
"Let's check out Crime Town."
Yeah. So I checked that out. Okay, so the first season's about Providence, Rhode Island, and basically how the mayor for years and years and years was in with the mob, and it was just so obvious. There was so much corruption, and he even went to jail for it. But he kept coming back. Like he got convicted, and then they elected him again. Like it just kept happening. Anyways, so then it moves to Detroit, and it starts with that first mayor, which is like from the 70s. I want to say he was super corrupt. It eventually gets to Kwame Fitzpatrick, and like his whole the corruption.
At that point, they were like, "What? Yeah, duh."
The corruption in that administration was crazy too. His dad was essentially like selling building permits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Had a consultant company and was making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And Kwame was too. So this seems to be. I mean, it's not just New York. This happens all over the place.
Yeah.
Once you get that kind of power, it's just so easy to be corrupted. I think it's probably a little more difficult now, just based on, but not that much more. I think it still happens, for sure. But there's a lot more like surveillance out there where you couldn't just. Dude, there's the whole thing with the stripper at the governor's mansion in Detroit, where
yes, oh my god, of course, yeah,
that comes up,
yeah,
and
that
then
was like 2010,
yeah, something like that, and then she gets gunned down.
It was earlier, yeah.
I think it's 2007, maybe, but
it was right after I moved.
Yeah, that whole story is wild. So, yeah, corruption happens, guys. Corruption happens.
Then put up the nameplate. Boom, that's a real. There we go. Okay, go ahead. We got to start moving.
Yeah, what's this Instagram that you have? Do we know?
It's a video. It was a video for that news. It's okay.
Okay. Brazil started blocking access to X, formerly Twitter, nationwide after the Supreme Court upheld a judge's order to suspend the platform for failing to comply with an order to appoint a local legal representative. So Musk and Brazil have been going back and forth for quite a while.
So I'm a target rich environment for Musk's opinion on this. Not I tend to trust his opinion, if you follow me.
Sure.
Like I'm more inclined to be like, shut the fuck up, Brazil. Let there be X there. So like what's the argument there? Is there a good argument for this, or is Lula being a cunt?
All right, so just a couple things backing up a little bit. So I didn't realize how popular
I interrupted.
I didn't realize how popular X was in Brazil.
Really?
They have a population of 200 million people. They have 40 million active users on X, which is 20% of the population. That's massive. That's a lot.
What did you just say? They have 40%.
No,
They have 40
20%.
million of 60 million people.
40 million of 200 million.
Oh, I heard 60 out of nowhere. Okay, cool.
Yeah, 42.
Okay.
So that's pretty massive. I think I want to say they rank like number 5 or 6, like
60 million people in Sao Paulo. Like,
yeah, in countries that have their like percentage of adoption.
Yeah, they're
of-
like
of
really
X.
high.
They're really high. So people like X there. So that's a pretty big deal. I tend to agree that so Lula wants Musk to take people off who are opposition to him, obviously. And he's also they fined him, and now they froze the assets of SpaceX. No, not SpaceX. Starlink.
what? Really?
In Brazil, because he's not paying fines that they've asked him to pay. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
that's directly affect. I
What's
mean, good luck,
interesting,
right?
though-
Like, this is going to affect your citizens more than like benefit the government.
What's interesting though is that Elon, free speech absolutist, has been willing to do things for Modi's government in India. Now maybe that's because
Oh,
they have
really?
a larger population, but he has taken down things opposition to
What,
Modi.
like T-Series? Some fucking Indian bullshit?
No,
I'm
like
totally
opposi-
on PewDiePie's side with the T-Series beef.
opposition leaders to Modi have been taken off Twitter, or
No shit.
yeah.
Oh.
So they've responded to Modi that way, but they're not doing it for Brazil. So I don't know how you.
Yeah, that is kind of the weird person to take a side for. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
Strange.
Okay, so you have not persuaded me in any way. Elon is right. Moving on.
Okay.
All right. Either read for me or I burp.
All right, I'm going to skip this one and I'll go to 7 so that way we stay odd and even. A Venezuelan judge ordered the arrest of the political opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez following the country's recent and widely disputed election. We talked about this before, or a lot about this story. The opposition got almost 80% of the tallies, which was the actual vote count, and it does show that they won. Now there's 20% missing, but that's still there. I mean, yes, and that's been independently verified.
Yeah.
So there is that in they're refusing to release the whole thing, which they have. And they're just saying, look, he won. And now
oh my god, that was so you did that up with extra.
And now
Says won. He won.
He won. And now they're trying to lock up
You
this.
sound like a fancy lad when you do that.
Oh, strawberries and cream.
That's not what it's from. It's fucking. Go on, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, just it sucks. It's bullshit, and clearly he lost, and it doesn't matter. And he's just going to do what he does as an authoritarian.
Do you want to just talk about his airplane here?
Yeah, sure. I think that's the.
It's in other news. Yeah.
Oh, it's in other
US
news.
seizes Maduro's plane. So he bought it with sanctioned funds. Is that the way
Yeah.
they described it?
Mhm.
Is that a
And
common
kind of like
practice?
snuck it out of the country, and then he
Why
parked
was
it.
why was it somewhere where we could seize it?
He parked it in the Dominican Republic like an asshole, and he was like, "It'll be fine here." And
Safe
then
there? Why is that not safe?
come on, like
Well, that's
we
not Puerto
can't-
Rico. It's not like our,
Nah, but we can
protectorate.
be like, "Hey,
Puerto Rico.
we need that plane," and then we just go get it. That's basically
Dude,
what it is.
did you see it? Like it's like a nice private plane, but it's not like a president's private plane.
Well, it's
not like
Air Force
president-
One.
it's not-
It's
No,
Air
it
Force One for them.
Yeah, I know. And have you looked it up? Have you looked
Yes.
it up?
Oh yeah, it's
Kind of
not-
a shitty plane to be like, that's the president, that's the dictator's plane. Like,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's a no, fuck it. That's a bad private plane. You know what better private planes? John Travolta has better private planes.
Yeah, he has a runway at the back of his house. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alan. He's a president. He has a military. Guess what? The military has lots of
Planes
runways.
and runways.
Yes. It's a shitty.
Oh,
plane.
actually, they tracked it, and it's like pretty much only goes back and forth to military bases. So that's
I'm shocked. Wow.
shocking.
All
All right, where are we?
By the way, good luck, Guyana, for as long as you shall be a player in the oil market. I'm proud of you. It's very exciting.
I think you're on.
It's like it does not rest in peace, but you can the sun is setting. Like Guyana cannot be long for this world with Venezuela becoming as they are.
Yeah.
And Brazil being like, look, we'll try to stop it, but only because we don't want war. Like if you win overnight, I guess that would be good enough for us to not fight you anymore, right? Like Brazil's not going to fight Venezuela because they took Guyana, right? But they will say like, hey, don't do that. But if they demolish Guyana instantly, which is plausible, then what's Brazil going to do after that? They're not going to do shit. And then what are we going to do? We've already sanctioned the hell out of them.
It's going to be a Crimea sort of situation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they got away with that. Look at
Guess
that.
that's yours.
So there's the blueprint. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, number 8.
The DOJ Inspector General said that the FBI is failing to appropriately refer all suspected child sexual abuse cases to other law enforcement. The FBI is not referring child sex abuse to law enforcement agencies, despite reforms after the Larry Nassar scandal. So Larry Nassar was the gymnast physician at USC. Not Penn State. How dare you drag Paterno's good name?
No,
into
it
this.
was you. I think it was
How dare you drag Jerry Sandusky's good name into this, Alan?
Yeah.
I think it was USC or UCLA. It was one of those West Coast wackadoos, Alan.
So I included this because I don't think it's getting that much press, and it does.
I'm glad. It's uncomfortable to talk about.
It is, and it's a really shitty topic, and it's really shitty the way this has been dealt with. So
Michigan State. It wasn't. I slandered the West Coast for no reason. Michigan State.
So since that happened with Larry Nassar, because there had been reporting, like people knew they should have been able to deal with this and let it go for years and years, and nothing was done about it. So after that, they're like, we need to put these policies in place. This has to be a priority. If we get tips about stuff like this, it has to be moved on quickly.
Yeah, if the FBI gets a tip about a child molester.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there are examples cited in this article of the FBI getting a tip and not moving on it for more than a year, and the abuser then abusing another child for over 15 months while they had this information the whole time. And
the FBI is coming across pretty good in this episode. And then they're like, how could the Secret Service have been so bad against Trump? It's like, I don't know, man. They're all kind of sucking.
So the IG points out a couple of there are statistics. So they're supposed to report within, I think it's 48 hours, at least get the tip out to local authorities.
Can't keep saying tip. I don't want to bring it up because of this issue, but it's like the 5th time you've done it.
Okay. All right. Point taken. In 50% of the time, they don't achieve that number. It's horrific. And it seems it's not it's systemic. It's just the information isn't moving where it's supposed to go. And they were aware of it years ago and attempted to fix it. It feels like nothing has changed. It might even be worse.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, I'm glad that we have an IG that's putting up the red flag and saying, hey, guys, we have a problem here. But
yes.
that's
It's getting
what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. So, why isn't there outrage with the administration for not better?
I mean, have you heard this headline anywhere but here?
No, that's why. Okay, I'm glad we're talking about
That's what I'm saying.
They should. This should be something that we hold them accouable for, right? Don't
Absolutely.
you remember all the IGs during the Trump administration
Yes.
bringing up shit? And we're like, well, I'm glad these people are bringing it up. Fuck them for not okay. Well, God damn it, Alan.
I mean, I watched 3 hours of cable news, and you listened to 15 hours.
Is it because Joe's just asleep at the wheel? Or, I mean, I can't possibly expect Kamala Harris to be better at this.
This has been over multiple administrations.
Of course, this includes 3 last presidents.
This is systemic. I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but this clearly is a systemic problem, and there just needs to be some serious overhauling to fix it. So
it's okay. The part that's so hard to believe is that it's a natural human reaction to hear of a story like this and be like, I need to pass this to the authority that will stop this second. How is that not happening?
And see, that's the part I can't reconcile either, because I mean, like we talked to Tarbell, he talked about serving, part of his job was to deal with this type of material, right? And how
The guy that
horrific
arrested Ross Ulbricht that was on the show.
right.
Yeah.
And for part of his job for a while at the FBI, that he had to deal with child sex abuse material that was found online, and how horrific that job was. And you must, as an FBI agent, I can only imagine when something like that comes across your desk, it's not like you're intentionally, just sitting on it for a year and a half, but you do something about it. So I don't know where the disconnect is, because at the individual agent level, I can't imagine any FBI agents like, yeah, fuck that, that's not important. So where the disconnect is, like I said, I have no idea, but it's clearly there somewhere, because it's not happening.
I'm making a note. Well, I'll reach out to him. I'll let you know. I think that's something you asked me, have I talked to him lately? And I said, well, what do you want to talk to him about that? Let me ask him about that and see if he gets back.
Okay.
Maybe we'll even bring him on the show. That'd be a good Patreon episode.
It would.
That's
right.
one to listen to when you're in the mood for it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do some true crime, none taken.
Right. All right. This one, just real quick. A U.S. made F-16 fighter jet crashed in Ukraine while
fell out of the news. Oh, not a pun.
While defending against a Russian missile attack weeks after initial deliveries of the aircraft. So we knew that, obviously if they're going to be used in combat, some of them are going to get shot down. So they were trying to take out missiles and drones that were incoming into Ukraine. They successfully took out, I want to say, 3 or 4 missiles and a drone. So they did have some positive impact, but the pilot was
Ukraine, Alan. That's
the pilot was killed, and the plane was
okay. Okay. I'm not going to do this. Yeah. That's honestly losing the operator of the aircraft is even more impactful, because you replace the plane.
There's not a lot of them.
Yeah. Wow, I actually never heard that part of that story, that the pilot died.
Yeah.
Because the way I'd heard this talked about was that, just if we're being honest, a lot of the F-16s were made. There's a lot of F-16s that crash. You kind of hear about it and you're like, did that mean it was shot down? This is the cost of being at war and putting pieces into play. And it just sucks that there's a cost like that affects individuals and the direction of the story. When I first heard about this on antiwar.com, he was just like, well, it might have actually been shot down by friendly fire, but we haven't heard confirmation on that. It's like, oh, well, wonder why people think that you're spreading Russian. I know he's not on that list. I'm just saying, like, when I hear that, like, look, people that are called influencers, it's an annoying word, but they direct the conversation flow. And if it only costs you $10 million to pay a handful of people $1 million or $2 million a year, that's really good. And the thing is, that was outrageous for the size of that company to expect to be able to pay that money. That's why that makes sense. So, like, when I believe that Dave DeCamp means it, when he's like, well, this sounds like maybe it might have been friendly fire, we don't know if that's true or not. You're saying the thing that I would imagine the Russians would rather get into our conversation and have. Now, I'm open to questioning the narrative. I'm not opposed to that. But, like, that just sounds so blatant. Like, that direct question sounds so... Brain rot's too strong, because I respect him more than that. But it's like what I expect from people when I'd be like, this is online brain rot shit. Like, why is your first thing to talk about that and not be like, we don't... Because literally the only place I've heard that is from them. Now, oftentimes that's how reporting spreads, but I haven't heard any more about that. And
all the reporting I've read about it is that they were trying to intercept all these munitions that were incoming, and they got overwhelmed. They did take out some, but something got them. So, all right, you're up 10.
Uganda marathon runner Rebecca Cheptegei, 33, died after the Olympic athlete was set on fire in Kenya by her ex-boyfriend over a land dispute. Each one of those words got like worse than before.
Yeah.
I've never read this sentence before in my life. That's fucking over a land dispute.
Yeah, they had purchased some property together and built a home, and then I guess there was some dispute about how they were going to divide that. And he poured gas on her and set her on fire.
Jesus Christ.
she survived for a while, but the
Oh,
burns were so bad, her organs shut down, and she did die. Um, it's a really shitty story. What makes it shittier is that there have been other female athletes who have been killed in not in Kenya, but in Eastern Africa by their significant others.
well,
I think it's
it's always the husband. Like,
as early as recently as 2021. I think there were 2 Olympic athletes that were also killed for various reasons by their SOs. It's just it sucks, man, and it's um, yeah. I don't know what else to say
oh, I'm
about
glad
that.
you had this. I didn't know the story. I mean, I
Yeah,
read each word of that was new to my eyes. Like, I didn't know anything about that.
yeah, that's a rough one.
You did read 2 in a row earlier, so I'm going to skip it. You said rough, which makes me want to hit the dog record, but I'm not gonna because she's not a dog; she's a human being. That fucking sucks. Unlike the other people we've played that record out. Over 10,000 hotel workers went on strike in multiple U.S. cities during Labor Day weekend after labor contract talks broke down with Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt. Fans of the show, I will be in Knoxville staying at a Hilton. Yeah, well, now I can't give the dates. Why would I get so personal? I question my judgment on this show sometimes. I booked that in the time period of this strike. Got a good rate. Paid with points and I had points left over, Alan.
Wow, nice, good for you.
Knoxville.
Yeah, so they're doing sort of a similar strategy that the auto workers did, where they're not like completely striking the entire company. They're doing certain locations to start with. A lot of these contracts were set to expire this year or next year, and so they've been renegotiating and haven't really been able to come to some sort of agreement. And so that's what they're doing now. Now, a lot of the complaints by the union members is that they're understaffed. They're asking people to do the work of 4 or 5 people with 3. They're asking for 4 or 5 star service with 3
Talking about
stars.
3/5 people personhood here, Alan.
They're asking for
Virtually
4.
slave labor, Alan.
I mean, so you and I in retail are familiar with this, where you're supposed to give them, the Nordstrom experience, right? But we're gonna give you fucking Dollar Tree fucking payroll.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you
Oh,
can't.
we work for a customer service based company that literally would hold meetings and say people can go to our competitor and buy things for less.
Right.
But you come here because you're knowledgeable staff and you'll give good service. And then they were like, by the way, you need to do 3 people's jobs.
Right. Yes. Yeah, we're gonna eliminate all those people, and yeah, you have to do all that. Eliminate. Yeah. So yeah, that's happening. All right. This last one here, President Biden reportedly plans to block the $14.9 billion purchase of U.S. steel by Japan's Nippon Steel due to national security concerns. So interestingly, this actually is also labor related, because
I like seeing this much labor action.
yeah. So this is an interesting.
I think that's a healthy marketplace.
I tend to agree with that. So the U.S.
As long as there's success there. That was the rest of the thought. And you were
US
probably waiting for it, right?
I was, yeah. U.S. Steel is in trouble. They have not upgraded their production plants. They need a lot of investment to stay competitive. And so this takeover by Nippon Steel.
Okay, Nippon, I know it's the country name. I know it's Japan. I know it's Nippon, whatever. It sounds like nipples, like when you got hard nipples. Nippon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Nippon had promised to make those investments and upgrade them to where they need to be so they could remain competitive. They had promised not to have any sort of layoffs until 2026, I want to say, if they were going to have any at all. Realistically, the company needs this surge of capital for it to survive. And if this deal is blocked, it is going to be bad for workers. However, the union has not been able to work out a deal that's satisfactory between this Nippon and that union. And so Biden, obviously, in an election year, and his desire for not his campaign anymore, but Harris's campaign to attract labor,
Success of the party.
right? And so he wants to, he doesn't want to be seen as not standing on the side of labor, while realistically blocking this deal would be bad for labor overall. So the hope here is that they can come to some terms of agreement, because if they can, if labor says we're cool with this, it's going to happen. Biden will turn on a dime. It absolutely will happen. So, and also We're going to
Do you
alienate.
want that though? Like, do you want the president to have that much? I mean, it's not like it hasn't happened before in terms of like ordering.
In this case, I'd be fine with it. Also,
Why is it different in this case? Because I agree with you, but I don't know.
well, we would be alienating a very long-term ally in Japan by doing this. I don't see how this really is a national security concern,
Yeah.
given that it's onshore. If Japan went rogue or something, we could deal with it because it's here. So I don't buy that premise. And because they have the deep pockets and the ability to make those investments and to make this company competitive again, I think it's a win-win. But labor they have to be able to negotiate that. And if they don't, I understand Biden saying like, no, I'm going to nix this deal. But overall, I think that would be bad for labor if it happened.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, is like why there's any version where Biden would want to nix it.
Just because if labor says no, we're not on board, then he's going to say, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Makes
Maybe
sense.
I misheard you.
Okay.
What else you got?
Other news.
Sorry, that was clumsy of me. I was looking for something on the Google. Look, my grandpa worked for a steel mill, and I wanted to see if the company that he worked for, both of my maternal and paternal grandfathers worked at the same steel mill in Pueblo, and I wanted to see who that got bought by, because obviously they're not a name you hear anymore.
Sure.
And they went out of business in the 90s. So like it's an industry I'd like to see provide jobs and wealth to Americans. I don't feel like a Japanese company buying it and paying them as overseas workers is really going to be revitalizing.
I think if they're investing in upgrading their production facilities,
you don't have them going away.
Right. And they can continue to be competitive, which right now they aren't. And so that's the problem. And I think that it's in our interest to maintain these things onshore. So
I know. Otherwise it becomes like denim, right? Where it's
Right.
just like you can only get that from the place where they bought the American factories and moved them to Japan. Yeah.
Also, China makes shitty steel. We don't want that.
Well,
All right.
Yeah. Or they can keep making shitty steel and we can show up with the good shit.
There's that.
Okay.
All right. In other news, Hunter pleads guilty to tax fraud. This dropped today.
They've got a judge, or they got a jury selected.
He pled guilty. He just said,
So he changed it.
Yeah, because they
were doing jury selection.
He had initially pled not guilty, and then he tried to plead amora or something like that.
He was facing 17 years. Is he just going to take his chances with the sentencing?
Yes. So he initially
deal.
So first he said,
microphone's over here, Alan.
First he said not guilty. Then he said, look, I can't, whatever the legal term was, he said, essentially, I can't fight these facts, but I still want to maintain my innocence. Can we come to some sort of agreement? Prosecutor said no. He said, fine, I'll plead guilty. I'm not going to put my family through this. So yes, he is facing the sentencing charges and huge fines. Between that and the Delaware gun charge, both.
I've brought the microphone back to my face because I would like to interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead.
If you think about the fact pattern of his actions,
yeah.
I don't know what else you could say it sounds like, so I'm just going to say exactly what it sounds like. That sounds exactly like a rich kid that finally had to face up to his bad actions.
Yeah, and said,
okay. Like, so this isn't going to work my way if you just do this common thing that oftentimes people have done for me for my entire life. Okay, all right. Well, what about this other thing that people have done for me when I didn't get it the first way I wanted, but they still made sure that was okay? Oh, really? Okay, then I did it. Like,
yeah, I mean, in one sense of looking at it, you could say that's an almost noble reaction to be like, no, I'm not going to put my family through this, and I'm just going to take.
You're not giving him that, though.
No, well, I
mean, the guy that fucks his brother's ex-wife. Like,
at this moment, he's taking his lumps, so I'll give him some credit for that. Remains to be seen what
earlier, if you know what I mean, Alan.
Remains to be seen what the sentencing might look like, but he's just bypassed the entire trial and pled guilty.
Wow!
So
that is breaking news. That's cool. We're going to be saying something on our show tomorrow morning that people are hearing on their morning news.
Yeah, it just happened. All right, U.S. agents. U.S. agent seized phones of top members of Eric Adams' administration, the mayor of New York. So there had already been a federal probe into Adams' administration for corruption. They're saying this is separate from that.
What was the first probe about? Wasn't that about Turkey?
It was about fundraising for his campaign
From Turkey, though, right?
Yeah, and
Turkey, the country, not the
Turkey,
Turkey.
yeah. So
Turkey
questions of
Wait,
foreign.
you never hear about turkey eggs. How come we don't eat turkey eggs? We seem to have a lot of turkeys. I imagine there's female turkeys, right? Because that's why you have a tom turkey. Why are we eating turkey eggs? Why do Australians get the large bird egg thing? You know, turkeys make eggs, right? They got to make eggs.
They got to make eggs.
I've had a duck egg. That's like hens, where they just shit them out every morning.
Don't know. I've had a duck egg. I've never had.
Hens are ready to get fucked at a moment's notice, right? Like there's no other reason why they're like, I'm ovulating. Bam, 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 right?
Sure.
Is there a bigger slot on a farm than a chicken?
I don't know. It depends on your.
That's Mr. Hands. It's like me.
Okay, back to the story. I don't know how we went there. So they seized the. I think it was like an education chancellor and some top people in the police department phones. So and there already, like I said, there already was an FBI probe into the Adams administration as far as fundraising from foreign countries and also spending. So man, it's a lot.
You kept track of where you were in that story. That's amazing. Like
it. So I go back to that Crime Town thing, man. Dude, the fucking corruption in these mayor's offices.
In these democratic cities, Alan.
It's both. It's both. It doesn't matter, man. Red or blue, they'll both take.
Well, I mean, I know that's my take, is that politicians aren't trustworthy people, right? That's why, like, Mr. Nice Guy, Congressman Nice Guy, were like, I don't understand. Like, you're literally saying everything, right? There's something like
well, that's, I mean, one of the things I liked about Cenk on Lex was him talking about the real problem is money in politics. And if we can't do something about that, like, that's step one.
That's the clip that I have. He talks about the history of how it all goes back to that Nixon administration court and that letter, that memo that got that guy put into the Supreme Court. We'll play it on the show. Yeah. And it's like, man, you ever like have something reminded to you that you already knew, but then finally reframed appropriately for it to be like, this led to this action exactly. And it's like, how I had to have known that and forgotten it, right? Like, there's no way sometimes I'm like, I probably just have Alzheimer's. These things are all the time. Like, what? I already knew that. Wow. Natasha tells me about people we hung out with and places we went to dinner.
Right.
No,
and you don't you don't remember?
I mean, I think there's a reason for it sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah. Not that often.
It's funny you mentioned Nixon. Nixon appointed one of the guys that was indicted in the whole Russian election interference thing. He appointed him to be the head of or on one of his think tanks in 1994. And I'm like, Nixon in 1994?
Oh, yeah.
That can't be right. But
no, living in Santa Barbara. That was like right before he died.
Yeah. Anyways,
Santa Barbara.
I don't know. That's pretty funny though.
Yeah, Reagan is Simi Valley, right? One of those is like Simi Valley. I used to drive.
Reagan sounds like Santa Barbara to me. Not sure. All right. NIH stops investigating Havana syndrome because they're saying that, or actually, people who were part of the study are claiming that the CIA coerced them into being a part of the study.
That doesn't sound like the CIA. Hold on.
What they're saying is that the CIA said if you want medical treatment for your symptoms,
CIA put a chip in my brain.
For medical treatment for the symptoms that you're alleging to have had because of this Havana syndrome, then you got to be a part of this study. And so obviously
coerced into being it. The CIA put a chip in their brain. They made them go there.
Obviously, studies don't work when people are coerced into participating, and so NIH is like, okay, we're done here, and they moved on. Okay,
that's a unsatisfying conclusion,
dude. That whole case is unsatisfying.
Yeah,
I mean, we listened to that. What was it? The Sound? Was that?
Yeah, it was a really compelling podcast.
It was, and then it ended. And you're just like, What the fuck?
Yeah. Wait,
I don't-
halfway through, I thought we were going somewhere with this.
And it went nowhere. They
But I
built a
guess that's
microwave.
exactly the feeling. They built the microwave to do it. Yes. At the end, it was like the exact feeling that it probably felt like to investigate this, and they got that feeling out.
Yeah, and maybe what it felt like to be a victim of it as well. I mean, just the whole like, fuck.
That was deep, Alan.
Sometimes we're deep out here on None Taken.
No, we never oh, I got one.
Fuck them.
There we go.
This next one you added, so I didn't have a. Okay, House Republicans pivot to attacking Walz with subpoena over a nonprofit's fraud. So this is back during the pandemic. There was a program aimed at feeding hungry children, and a nonprofit in Minnesota was set up to use those funds and ostensibly.
This is the new attack that people on the right are using. Like, I was talking to someone who will be unnamed, and he's just always an agitator in my DMs, and I like engaging with him. And things were kind of going well. You know, he hadn't done very many personal attacks towards me lately. And I was like, oh, well, here's a news story on that Tenet Media thing. And like, you know, this person might be more relatable. And they're like, haha, I know that person. There's blah, blah, blah. It's like, why are you doing everything you can to just dismiss understanding the story? Like, and then he goes, well, Tim Walz was laundering $250,000 through Minnesota. So why should I care about $10 million? No, $250 million through Minnesota. Right. Why would I worry about 10 million from this? It's like, you're just do whatever you have to do to keep being comfortable with your current thoughts and situation. Like,
yeah. Okay. So this had already been under investigation. They had already been provided. So it was Minnesota's education department that oversaw this child nutrition program.
This was just the newest pivot to be like.
Yeah, they'd already been providing documents, cooperating with the committee. In fact, this is quote, the official also noted that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which funded the pandemic era program, refused during the Trump administration to act on the state's repeated warnings about the fraud scheme, saying that Minnesota actually reported it and said, hey, this is not good. There's no evidence currently that I'm seeing that actually ties Walz to this, other than the fact that he was the governor at the time it happened, which, if you want to say,
also like here, what state didn't have some kind of COVID fraud, right?
Everybody.
Like, yeah, right. Yeah.
So, I mean, California had massive.
I mean, Alan, you were sick one day for this podcast, and I had Eric come on. No, twice, because friend. Oh, you would have met him. He was at the wedding. He's also co-hosted before. But one of the other times you were sick, we had Eric on, our friend, the doctor from Oklahoma. I'm not saying his last name because he's like, "Oh, we're committing COVID fraud right now. Like, here's how you commit all this payroll fraud. It's insane." Now that's fallen off the feed. You've got to probably join Patreon or whatever to find that. But yeah. So yeah, this was happening everywhere. Now that was Oklahoma, but you know what, red state, right? Like, you know, if Trump would have picked the governor of Oklahoma, he would have been. We'd have a story just like this, which was the point. Yeah.
Okay, this last.
Like, I don't feel like that negates that politician. Does that make sense?
I don't either, unless there's a smoking
they're
gun
doing
here.
Anything they can to counter him, and it's just not effective.
I don't think it matters. All right, this last one I am blind on. You said not to look at it until.
Yeah. This is similar to the story about Eric Adams in New York and his cell phones and Egypt and all that stuff. Go ahead and read this. This is from Tesseron News.
At approximately 15:30 EST, initial reports indicated that the Federal Bureau of Investigation was raiding the home of New York City Police Department Commissioner Kabian. NYPD officers have been instructed to isolate emails from the commissioner and high-ranking federal officials in the Biden administration. The phones and computers of New York City First Deputy Mayor Wright and New York City Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Banks have also been seized in a major anti-corruption investigation. Wright shares a home in Harlem with Phil and Terrence Banks' brother David Banks, who is the city's school chancellor. It is unclear if
that's weird. Like, what's that have to do with anything?
It's unclear if the raid targeted one or both of them because they live together. So perhaps they could have been the target, not him. It is unclear if this is related to the ongoing investigation against Mayor Adams' Turkey relations and his election.
Go ahead and read that sentence one more time. I'm sorry. What? His what relations?
Turkey.
No. Just read it again. It's hilarious when you say the words without a pause between them.
It is unclear if this is related to the ongoing investigation against Mayor Adams' Turkey relations and his election.
What? This man has got relations with turkeys. We're over here talking about what his commissioners are doing in their emails. This guy's got turkey relations. Like, that's what happens to the turkey eggs. Eric Adams is going around.
That could be a show title.
I got it written down. I had turkey eggs written already.
Okay,
Turkey
all right.
relations is pretty good.
They actually have a symbol after turkey, which I think is supposed to be the turkey yay part or G.
It just didn't translate into English language because
Right.
we're like, pretty sure you mean the country Turkey. You
Yeah.
don't need to change your name because it sounds like a bird, dummy.
By the way, according to
What do you think Hungary's got to say about this, right? Or
according to
Thailand.
according to the New York Times, it does not have to do with, or at least currently doesn't have to do with Adams. However, that could all change based on the evidence they find. Once you seize a phone, you have all the data. Hey, maybe something connects. You never know.
Yeah.
These things happen.
Yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine if they seized Trump phone? I was like, Trump phone. I was like, my thought was, yeah, I wonder if he went to Epstein Island. I was like, oh, you know who went to Epstein Island? Donald J. Trump.
Phone spurs are very serious.
Part of what brought down Fitzpatrick in Detroit was they got the text messages.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you were going there.
Yeah. Never
She's
know.
got spunk.
That's what they found in them. They found videos of here's Donald Trump in a seized video.
She's got spunk.
Oh. All right. What have you been watching?
I
what's
watched
your media diet.
I watched Baby Driver, which I
You
know
haven't
is
seen this?
no, I hadn't seen it. It was on Netflix. I just popped on Netflix. I was like, oh, I
Terrible
haven't seen it.
name.
It
Great.
was a pretty good movie.
Great. See, Baby Driver. You should have. This
It was a good
it's
movie.
2014 talking like when.
17, I think.
Okay.
It's old. Yeah, I realize that. John Hamm, Kevin Spacey, Jamie Foxx, Ansel Elgort, I think, is the main character. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was a fun little heist movie. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I'll say
That movie's about autism, right?
well, he has hearing damage, but kind of.
It's about the sensor, and he's very specifically good at something. I mean, this is like Rain Man with cars.
Yeah, except I guess it could be said that, but I think that the cause though isn't necessarily. It could be neurodivergence, but it seems to be a ear injury as opposed to that.
Okay, that is true. Okay.
Yeah. I also watched that.
It was more the specialty at the cars with some.
Sure, which she's really good at, which is fun. I also watched Inside the Mind of a Dog on Netflix, which is a fun little dog documentary on Netflix. Talks about service animals.
Does it show a lot of dog POV?
Not a lot, no.
No, I'm not watching.
It's really good.
Yeah, when it's like right on the dog.
It's fun because it goes through a lot of like service animal training and like how dogs are trained and then how their personalities might line up to do one type of work versus another. And you kind of see their personalities come out. It's fun. It's fun. I didn't realize all of that.
Is it a series?
No, it's just like an hour and a half.
I might watch that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh my God. When I was laying on the couch on Tuesday, just with my back, just laying on the heating pad, I watched Godzilla, the new Godzilla, King Kong. And literally it ended and the credits went up and I was like, what the fuck happened in this movie? Like, I don't know what the fuck happened. Like they go to the core of the earth. There's a whole thing there. I don't know why. I don't understand what happened from them being there. There was a monkey that was mean, and then there was like a Diddy Kong. There was like a little baby Kong.
Yeah.
And they seem to have a lot of trouble with like spatial representation of their characters. Because like this seems like a little small little monkey, and then he jumps in the water and he's as big as King Kong. You're like, I don't understand.
I think they did that on purpose.
Well, yeah, because there's no way that it can look as big as Godzilla has to be to tower over skyscrapers.
Right.
And then he's like, in the end, he's riding Godzilla. I'm like, you are not keeping any of this like spatially consistent. Like, I don't. Yeah,
I could agree with that.
Yeah,
yes,
it's a bad movie. Don't watch that. That wasn't non-intentional review. Intentional review, Maxine. It's either spelled with 2 or 3 X's. You have to rent it. I don't recommend renting it unless you're a fan of A24. In which case, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your fucking money. I liked it. I wish I didn't pay for it because it had glaring plot holes that I found, like plot holes that would be avoided with a line of dialogue.
Oh, that's the worst.
And it's just like you keep referring to this past event and not explaining it at your like culmination point of the movie. And then also there's this whole thing where like a certain character is able to afford this house, and it's like, so they're just renting that, like they're them and their group of people that this movie's about. Like that seems kind of weird, but okay. But okay, here's what I liked about it. It's definitely homage to like 80s horror, and even what do you call it? Oh, Kevin Bacon's in it.
Okay.
And he like slasher horror kind of.
Mhm.
And Kevin Bacon plays Jack Nicholson from Chinatown.
Oh,
So very cool for that. Also, my cousin who does the my cousin in law, I should say, just to be, you know, legally accurate. My Aussie cousin who does special effects in Australia.
Oh no!
He was involved in this movie. I didn't even know that. I was messaging.
oh, that's
him.
cool.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't like these plot holes. What did you think of that movie? He's like, I fucking loved it. He's like, I agree with you on the plot holes. But like also, it's satisfying. It's visually very satisfying. Like it was very well shot. But there's just things where it's like, why did you even have that scene? Like I don't understand. But like, it's the way that horror movies aren't perfectly made.
Mhm.
Where it has things you're like, okay, well, that's cool though. I like the movie. I just wasn't very forgiving of it.
Okay.
All of that, if you can see it for free, you should see Maxine.
Okay.
But be prepared.
Duly noted.
Be prepared for plot holes, but whatever. I watched Furiosa. I'll give that a short review because I don't feel like talking about it very much. I liked it though.
I liked it too.
Free. Oh, you saw it?
Yeah.
I've heard that George Miller
Mhm.
has been trying to like that whole story was in his mind conceptually start to finish prior.
Mhm.
So it's only been like filled out by
Right.
being able to do more movies. Obviously there is like a modern storytelling
Mhm.
thing that is going on in the newer movies, but that's modern Hollywood, you know. But the total like addition to the story of Wasteland Australia
Mhm.
is really, really fun.
Yeah.
There's a reference to the first movies, and I'll leave it like that. That like before they give you the real reveal on it, you're like, dude, is that this person? And then
Yeah.
there's this like once you've like really thought that, they go to a shot where you're like, car. Oh, look at the car. You're like, yeah, and that was really cool. That was
Yeah.
actually really, really cool because a lot of people thought that character was in the last Fury Road movie,
Mhm.
but I have it on good authority that was the mute kid from the other movies, which explains him grunting and not talking.
Oh. Okay, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And when he says his name, it's because it's a name he knows. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. I'm good on that, and I've spoiled everything to anybody with a brain. I have a little bit of trivia for you. I think this will be very fun. I'm trying something new. I'm trying to
Okay.
start a new game. And like, so I used Gemini thinking that I could find a scenario that could make a game. So I asked it for a game, but I was never going to be like, I bet these answers I get from Gemini on Make Me a Quiz about Madison, Tennessee are going to be things that'll be funny in our show, right? I figured worst case scenario, it'll put up a question that we could riff on, but like
Sure.
best case scenario, I think is pretty close to what ended up happening.
Okay.
So I'm not going to spoil it. So I'm going to do 3 series of 3 option multiple choice. I'm going to give you 3 multiple choice questions.
Okay.
Each multiple choice questions has 3 answers, right?
Got it. Okay.
By the second or third one, you might notice that there is a pattern going.
Okay.
Trivia game, Madison, Tennessee. That's what I asked for. So 3 facts about the city of Madison, Tennessee. 2 are fake. 1 is real.
Okay.
Israel. These Israelis, or what is it? These Gazans have had it too good for too long.
Most gay people.
Oh, not that one. Wait, hold on.
Most gay people are retarded.
That's not what I meant. I saw Brido and I
Peg my butthole.
that one where he does the these Gazans have had it too good for too long. Oh well. I got this one.
Throw the Jew down the well.
Okay, musically that's a good song. Where were we? Oh,
The game.
Okay, so three questions about Madison, Tennessee. I have a multiple choice question. So here's 3 facts about Madison, Tennessee. 2 fake, 1 real.
Okay.
Oh, Israel. That's why we were doing all that. Madison, Tennessee was once the home of the world's largest catfish.
Okay.
The first McDonald's restaurant in Tennessee was located in Madison.
Okay.
Madison is the birthplace of country music legend Johnny Cash.
Oh shit.
Which one is real?
I would expect the catfish to be like in Oklahoma or something.
There you go. But okay.
I don't think Cash was born in Madison. I think there'd be like a big ass fucking.
I might have mentioned it before. Instead of being like he lived in that apartment with.
There'd be a big deal. Like you'd fucking know. There'd be the massive.
Him and Waylon. I told you it was like that place next to D's. Him and Waylon lived.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'd say here's his room. Yeah. Okay. So far you ruled one out. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then what was the
Madison, Tennessee was the world's largest catfish.
Oh, the McDonald's.
The first McDonald's restaurant in Tennessee was in Madison. So I asked Google Gemini this. Creators of Black George Washington.
First McDonald's in Tennessee and Madison. You know, I guess I'm gonna say the catfish is the correct one.
Okay, according to Google Gemini, the first McDonald's was in Madison, Tennessee, but the first McDonald's was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, that okay.
So good luck. I got 2 more of these for you.
Okay, I think that counts as a win for that.
Yeah, you probably got. You know what? Yeah, not provably wrong, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 facts about the city of Madison, Tennessee.
Okay.
2 are fake. 1 is real. Madison, Tennessee is the birthplace of the iconic rock band Kings of Leon.
Okay.
The Madison Country Farmers Market, the Madison Country Farmers Market is one of the largest farmers markets in the state. Madison was once a thriving gold mining town.
Oh.
Which one of those statements is real?
I'm going to go with the farmers market.
You think that's true?
I mean,
did you think I would have stuttered through the Madison county? So it's not country, not county, it's country.
Country.
Madison Country Farmers Market. Okay.
I mean, they already selected it, so I can't.
According to Google,
Gemini,
you're right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But what's the actual?
That's a county in Alabama that has a market saying yes.
Okay. I still count that as a win.
On paper, you did win.
Okay.
All right, last of these. So far, you're doing great. Honestly, you have detected the right bullshit answer. 3 lies, 1 according to Google is true.
Okay, all right.
We need to do this more often.
This is fun. Yeah.
By the way, I asked it 3 times. I never got one with a truth in it. I didn't like cherry pick these. I didn't get one that was going to work. And that's when I realized, oh, that's the game.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so funny. 2 weeks in a row, we've been like, fuck Google and their bullshit. 3 facts about the city of Madison, Tennessee. 2 are false. 1 is real. Madison is home to the historic Fort Defiance Park, a Civil War battlefield. The world famous Grand Ole Opry was originally held in Madison.
Oh.
Madison was once the capital of Tennessee.
I'm going to go with the Opry.
You think that's the truth?
Yeah. Did I swing and a miss on that one?
Oh man. You like if you could strike out a grand slam, like that's you swung and a miss with the bases loaded, bro.
Oh shit. Okay.
Because you had 2 chances because the Grand Ole Opry is both an entity, it's an entity that has existed within a location and then they established a physical location. But the Grand Ole Opry was a musical performance on the radio. They played after like symphony music. And one of the first times it was on the air, the host says, well, you just listened to the Opry. Here's the Grand Ole Opry, and started playing all their fiddles and stuff. And so the band became called that. Or not the band, the show.
The show.
Kind
Which
of
wasn't associated with a specific location at the time.
Well, it was associated with the Ryman.
Okay,
She said
okay.
that, yeah, and it was broadcast live. It was one of the first, like one of the, I don't know, one of the original iconic broadcasts. Let's say that.
Mhm.
Radio broadcast still running. I'm gonna go with that. And
Think
has
so.
a physical location. So that was in downtown. Now it has a physical location in Hermitage, and you do not get points for either of those because you picked Madison, which I would have told you about, you silly goose. Everybody knows the correct answer is the Fort Defiance Park is a Civil War battlefield in Madison, Tennessee. Except that's not true either. It's in Clarksville, Tennessee. I fucking hate Google. This is such a weird fucking phenomenon. Like
so
they
strange.
should, like we should not have fun with this. Like if this was, dude, this is such an important company.
It
And they
used to
can't
be
get their search right. And then when we and the reason they can't get their search right is so that we go to their AI. And then
Right.
I'm like, well, let's use the eye for truth. Meanwhile, I was barbecuing bison, and I was like, I wonder if that's got a different doneness temperature than cattle. And like, and I checked it, but I was like, well, that's what it said. But let's Google that. like none of this is fucking right. Like we're dude, the Soviets won. The misinformation is fucking real. It's over.
It used to be so reliably accurate, and now it's just like it's a fucking coin toss. I don't know. It's bizarre.
That's why I set up duck ping.
Well, the guy's banging you.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
I'm a very sexy lady.
Cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot.
How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news. China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Podcasting.
Drive safe, bro.
Cheers.